like to address?
I do it. I kind of want to, as a biologist, I want to rely on the science. The scientists tell us you got to let this thing go through and take its course. It's wonderful to use pesticides, but we all talk about, well, it's my property, I want to use pesticides, I can do what I want, but you'll find a lot of pesticides you use never stays on your property. It leaches over to other people's properties and moves into the water system. So have patience. It will work its way through as it's happened in other communities, and it's just part of what's happening in our communities. It's important to have patience for it and keep to the science. That's what's most important here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there was quite a lengthy discussion about this just last week in council, and our staff let us know that really, whether it's pesticide or whether it's a natural defense, most of them don't work. And when I heard this question, I thought maybe my husband was here because he has lost his entire front lawn and he's quite devastated by it this year. Again, we just have to wait for it to make its way through, whether it's pesticide or natural, neither are working at this point.
Thank you. We're going to go on to the next question, directed to Mr. Stewart. Do you have a budget to follow? You can expand on that. Do you have a budget to follow? Perhaps you can comment on the budgetary process.
Of course we have a budget to follow. We do that every year. We develop our budget through a number of months, beginning early in the year actually, and we pass the budget in December. That budget guides every single decision that the city makes over the course of the year. Occasionally we make a decision mid-year on a budget item, but hardly never does that happen. And we've become really disciplined about that to make certain that budget decisions are made during the budget process. There was one more comment about the casino funding and the decisions being made. That doesn't happen that way, and I was disappointed in the comment.
Thanks. Mr. Sikora, would you like to comment on the budgetary process?
Thank you very much. The way we do the budget, it's a bottomless well at the City Hall. No question about the fact that the treasurer walks in and he seems we're going to start at 3% on taxes. That seems to be a line where everybody's happy with. Oh, well, I need some policemen. Oh, well, that's extra. I need firemen. Well, that's extra. That is the budget. And guess what? We also have consultants' budgets coming on our yin-yang. Convention budget is $500,000 for mayor and council for conventions and staff. $500,000 for convention. That's why they go.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Mahovlich? Should Dogwood remain a senior center for seniors activities only, or do you support a community center with mixed activities?
I guess I'm glad I got a question asked to me, so that's positive. As far as I know, I've talked to a fellow before the meeting, and the Dogwood Center that's being transformed into a community center, I think is unacceptable. I've lived here my whole life. I went to Centennial. I know it's across the street, I believe, and I've had chats with other seniors that are concerned with these issues. And what I think it is another alternate location should be brought forth for a community center if that's necessary. I mean, there is land available without cutting down all the trees. I could show you where, Richard, but you need to work within both. I think it would be unfair for the seniors to lose that, and in the same respect, you need to generate an alternative place for a community center, definitely.
Thank you. Ms. Towner, you're next. Yeah. Should Dogwood remain a senior center for seniors activities only, or do you support a community center with mixed activities?
I believe that the Dogwood Pavilion should remain for seniors only. Our seniors population is growing, and luckily for everybody, we're all living longer, and I think we need to expand the programs, services, amenities, recreation centers for the senior population. I think as our population in the city as a whole grows, we need more community centers for the 50-plus age group.
Thank you. Any questions?
Dogwood Senior Center isn't going anywhere. It's staying as a senior center. 6 years ago, I was on council. We invested $3 more million into Dogwood Senior Center to expand and upgrade Dogwood Senior Center. It's a great center. It's a great place. I don't know where this false rumor started and has caused undue angst in the seniors there. We are doing a master plan process and updating for all our parks. In there, it talks about facilities and need for upgrading facilities in the near future. All buildings at some time have a lifespan, just like we replaced the Chimo pool, we replaced the arena. Buildings have to be replaced.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. It's directed to Mr. Sikora. Mr. Sikora, do you support reforming the liaison committee of previous years?
Thank you very much. When I'm elected mayor, I'm certainly going to have a great mayor's group as far as the committee is concerned to deal with issues with the city hall. We can have a meeting every month with a council member sitting on their committee and bring the recommendations to council. Certainly I will have land use committee, parks operation committee, and also engineering committee. Yes, I believe very strong in committees because the way we are now, we're being fed by the staff and only what the staff wants us to have. We have no leadership, again, from the mayor's office. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart, would you like to answer the same question?
Absolutely. These questions do seem to be directed particularly for someone. But I do want to acknowledge that the community groups do absolutely, the community associations do wonderful work. In fact, there was a comment made earlier about the message board sign. I actually think, and I propose to council, that we should be partnering with community groups on those message board signs because they're a community asset as well. We need to do more with our community associations to be able to foster the strength that they provide to their residents and to the whole city. And this is one of the strongest ones right here in Burquitlam, and I absolutely value its input.
Thank you. Going back to Mr. Craig. Question here is, are you prepared to call a halt on all development permits until a new BQLCP, but I think they need the Burquitlam Low Heat Community Plan, can be approved by the people in the Burquitlam and Low Heat area?
Thank you. So the question regards development in Burquitlam, which is an area that I've been extremely active on over the last few years. And the primary issue we've had with developing Burquitlam is that we're approving a high-rise here and a high-rise there with really no overarching plan in place. I'm a financial planner. I wouldn't dream of making an individual investment recommendation to a client without full knowledge of their entire financial position. And I really think that's the approach the City Hall must take. We can't just approve high density here and high density there without a comprehensive plan in place. Another thing is we have to send developers a strong message. That it's not about just building high density and high rises according to market demand. It's about fitting into a community. It's about animating that community and enlivening that community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nicholson, you get the next opportunity. Are you prepared to call a halt on the development permits until the Burquitlam Low Heat Community Plan can be approved?
So am I prepared to call a halt to development permits in Burquitlam, the Low Heat area until the plan is approved? No, I'm not prepared to call an absolute halt, but we're certainly going to look very carefully at everything that comes before us. And I want to make the point that when the Burquitlam Low Heat neighborhood plan was proposed by staff, I, along with some of my colleagues, argued vigorously that we needed a Burquitlam neighborhood plan that could be done, focused on this area, and done more quickly, and with a direct response to the people from here. There's little bridge between Burquitlam and Lower Lougheed. That area needs to have its own vibrancy and have its own plan done separately. Thank you.
Mr. Hart, would you like to answer the same question?
Yes, I was one of the councillors that wanted to see a Burquitlam plan done as an individual plan. I think that there's a lot of development that's happening quickly. I think that we need to get a plan in place as quickly as we can. In the absence of that plan, as I came on council, development was already proceeding. It's driven by the SkyTrain line. We knew the SkyTrain was coming. Planning was underway. There is a plan in place, but it's not up to date. And I think that we need to get that plan in place as quickly as we can so that we have a thorough plan for this area and that we're not doing buildings on an ad hoc basis. And unfortunately, that's
Thank you. The next question is directed to our mayoral candidates. Mr. Sikora, specifically, when do we get a community center in Burquitlam?
Do we need a community center here? Of course. Matter of fact, I'll tell you, there's no question about it will be here. But the fact is, you know something, that you may have to jeopardize that park. That about 5-acre park, which is back up where the Safeway was, that may be in jeopardy. All depends who gets elected. Ladies and gentlemen, we do need a community center here. There's other land we can put it in. We don't need to use our city park. And I wanted to have the parks dedicated. The mayor did not want it dedicated. Matter of fact, 3 years later, they finally talked about it. And because I'll tell you why, this park is in jeopardy right now. Back at Safeway. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart, would you like to answer the same question? And just a reminder to speak into the mic. They are having some difficulties hearing you on the map.
My preference is to not use that park either. We do need a community center right now. We need it as soon as possible here in Burquitlam. This has been one of the shortcomings. Burquitlam has needed a community center for 30 years, and it didn't have it. We didn't have council support for the amenities that Burquitlam needed. For 30 years now, we've needed that. And so I realize it's my fault now, but let's face it, we have to do it now, and I want it done as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Going back to Mr. O'Neill, I believe. Do you support continuation of the apparent current policy of densification at any cost, with no official community plan in effect to guide developers and ensure a safe, livable community?
Density at any cost? Of course not. I do not. And it's not density at any cost. I was very proud to support the TDS, this transit-oriented development strategy, that did have an interim plan for this neighborhood. That, in conjunction with the long-standing Burquitlam neighborhood plan, I think provide us a good template for going ahead, of course going ahead carefully to make sure that sensitive densification in line with what the people want. I've already told you that I'm very sensitive to the needs of this neighborhood. I was one of the only 3 councillors who voted against putting that truck route right through the heart of Burquitlam. So you can count on me to stand up for what you want. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schiff?
I definitely agree that we need to follow the OCP in this community. If the OCP says that we can only build 22-story buildings, that's what we're going to follow. It's developed by this community, and we need to follow that. I think that Burquitlam needs to grow. Yes, definitely. We have the SkyTrain. That's a perfect opportunity for development to be placed around that area. But we also need to keep in mind that we need to create jobs. We also need to invest in public safety. There's going to be crime that's going to come into Burquitlam with the Evergreen. We need to be ready for that. We also need to make sure that we lower taxes. We're not trying to compromise.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Kim, do you support the continuation of the apparent current policy of densification at any cost?
Yes, I will. In all plannings and densification, urban planning, redevelopment, there needs to be a constant adjustment while executing those plans. And the issue without there's a regulation or any plans in place before the densification happens, that's a problematic. And I will make clear regulations and promote densification.
Thank you. We're going to go back to the other end of the table then and start with Mayreed. The next question is, what are your ideas for helping local seniors to age in place?
Probably do what I do, keep running for council. I think that we have done quite a bit to help seniors age in place. I think we've provided some smaller accommodations, although there are new ones coming in. But what I like to see is people keep talking about affordable housing, and seniors housing is a part of that. And those of us who want to move out of our big houses with our big lots and say goodbye to our lawnmowers, We need appropriate housing to move into, and appropriate housing that can keep us there for 10 years or more. And that's what I am always, I can't say the word, but really niggling about. And I think we're actually starting to get some, and we'll be getting some in this area for sure. That's
Thank you.